Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. This is our report tackling about the institutional histories of schools, uh, corporations, industries, and religious group of the Philippines. So the first reporter is Miss Relatado.
So first is school. Sa panahon ng pre-colonial bago dumating ang mga kolonyalistang Kastila noong 1521, ang edukasyon sa Pilipinas ay hindi formal at nakasentro sa oral na tradisyon na may kaalaman na ipinasa sa mga henerasyon. Ang mga katutubong komunidad ay may sariling sistema ng pag-aaral ng kadalasang nakatutok sa mga kasanayan at kaligtasan ng buhay, pangyayari at mga kultural na kasanayan. Ang larawang ito ay nagpapakita ng kanilang skills, craftsmanship, and cultural practices. Sa panahon naman ng Spanish colonial period noong 1521 at 1808, ipinakilala ng Espanyol ang formal na edukasyon na nagtatag ng mga unang paaralan upang turuan ang mga piniling tao at klero. Ang Universidad ng Santo Tomas na itinatag noong 1611 ay isa sa pinakamatandang institusyon pang-edukasyon sa Asya. Noong panahon ng kolonyal ng Espanyol sa Pilipinas, ang simbahang Katoliko ay nagtatag ng mga paaralan na nakatuon sa pagtuturo ng relihiyon at pagpapalaganap ng Katolisismo. Malaki ang papel ng mga institusyong ito sa pagpapakilala ng formal na edukasyon at paglalatag ng batayan para sa sistema ng edukasyon sa Pilipinas. Ang pinakamatandang universidad tulad ng Universidad ng Santo Tomas noong 1611 ay ang Universidad ng San Carlos noong 1595 ay itinatag sa panahong ito ng mga misyonerong Katolikong Espanyol. Sa panahon naman ng mga Amerikano, ang pananakop ng mga Amerikano ay nagdulot ng sistema ng pampublikong edukasyon na nagpapalawak ng akses sa pag-aaral para sa mga Pilipino. Ang mga paaralan na ito ay malaki ang papel na ginagampanan ng mga paaralang ito sa pagtataguyod ng pagtuturo ng wikang Ingles at mga pampahalagang pangkultura ng mga Amerikano sa sistema ng edukasyon ng Pilipinas. Sa panahon ng pananakop ng mga Hapon sa Pilipinas noong 1942 hanggang 1945, ang sistema ng edukasyon ay sumasailalim sa mga makahulugang pagbabago. Nilalayo ng mga Hapon na itaguyod ang mga pagpapahalaga sa kulturang Asyano habang binabawasan ang impluwensyang kanluran. Ipinakilala nila ang isang bagong pang-edukasyon na nagbibigay diin sa pagtuturo ng wikang Hapon, Tagalog at mga programa sa pagpapalitan ng akademyong nagpapahintulot sa mga estudyanteng Pilipino nag-aaral sa Japan. Ang mga pagbabagong ito ay sumasailalim sa malawak na pagbabago sa kultura at politika na ipinataw ng imperyo ng Hapon sa panahon ng kanilang pananakop. Sa panahon ng Hapon, wala masyadong mga naidetalye dahil dito ay nagkaroon na naman ng mga giyera. Sa panahon naman ng post-independence and modern era, ang Pilipinas ay nagpatuloy sa pagpapaunlad ng sistema ng edukasyon nito na pinagsasama ang katutubong kalaman at modernong pedagogy. Ang pedagogy ay isang termino na tumutukoy sa paraan kung paano nagtuturo ang mga guro sa teorya at sa pagsasanay. Ang pedagogy ay nabuo sa pamamagitan ng mga paniniwala sa pagtuturo ng isang tagapagturo at may kinalaman sa interplay sa pagitan ng kultura at iba't ibang paraan upang matuto. Ito ang mga batas na lumikha ng mga paaralan sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. Act No. 1970 and 1908, ang batas na ito ay inaprubahan ng legislatura ng Pilipinas noong 1908. Ay nagtatag ng Universidad ng Pilipinas o UP. Ang UP ay pambansang universidad ng bansa at nagsisilbing pangunahing institusyon para sa mas mataas na edukasyon at pananaliksik. Private School Law of 1917. Ang batas na ito ay pinagtibay noong 1917 ay nagbigay ng mga regulasyon at patnubay para sa pagtatag at pagpapatakbo ng mga pribadong paaralan sa Pilipinas. Nilalayo nitong tiyak ang kalidad ng edukasyon at pinagutan sa mas pribadong institusyong pang-edukasyon. Commonwealth Act No. 180 in 1936. Ang batas na ito nakilala rin bilang Education Act of 1936 ay nagpasimula ng mga makabuluhang reformang pang-edukasyon sa panahon ng Commonwealth. Nilalayo nitong isulong ang pambansang wika sa kulturang Filipino. Pahusayin ang kalidad ng edukasyon at matatag na matibay na pundasyon para sa sistema ng edukasyon sa bansa. Mga reforma pagkatapos ng ikalawang digmaang pandaigdig noong 1946 hanggang 1972. Matapos makamit ang kalayaan noong 1946, ang Pilipinas ay sumailalim sa mga reformang pangkultura at pang-edukasyon upang hubugin ang pagkakakilanlan ng kulturang Pilipino at matugunan ang mga umuunlad sa pangangailangan ng bansa. Sa panahong ito, maraming batas at patakaran ang ipinapatupad upang mapabuti ang sistema ng edukasyon, palawikain ang akses sa edukasyon at pagandahin ang kalidad ng pagtuturo.
Corporation. Pre-colonial period. During this time, trade networks and economic interaction played a significant role in shaping pre-colonial Philippine societies. Trade routes connected the Philippines to neighboring regions, facilitating the exchange of goods and commodities. Local leaders known as datos or rahas government their communities and oversaw economic activities. Although corporation did not exist, economic practices such as barter and credit system were prevalent. Spanish colonial era, 16th to 19th century. Spanish colonization introduced the concept of corporation to the Philippines. These entities were known as Sociedades Anónimas and played a vital role in industries such as agriculture, mining, and trade. The Spanish government granted charter to these corporations, granted them exclusive rights and privileges. Sociedades Anónimas referred to the corporation or business entities that operated under the Code of Commerce, which was based on Spanish law. Sociedades Anónimas shared similarities with modern corporations, including limited liability for shareholders. Under the Code of Commerce, Sociedades Anónimas were granted legal recognition and protection. They were required to register with the Spanish authorities and follow certain guidelines and regulation. This corporation had separate legal personalities distinct from these stakeholders and were able to own property, enter into contact, and engage in various business activities. One notable feature of Sociedades Anónimas was the concept of limited liability. Shareholders were liable for the company's debt and obligation only up to the amount of their investment in the corporation. This limited their personal liability and protected their professional assets from being used to settle corporate debts. Sociedades Anónimas played a significant role in the economic activities of the Spanish colonial period. In the Philippines, they were involved in various industries such as agriculture, mining, trade, and manufacturing. The Spanish government granted charter to these corporations, giving them exclusive rights and privileges in their respective industry. It is important to note the specific regulation and practices are surroundings. Sociedades Anónimas during the Spanish period may have varied for time in different regions of the Philippines. For a more in-depth understanding, it is recommended to consult historical and legal resources that focus on this particular aspect of the country's colonial history. American colonial period, 1898 to 1946. American colonial rule introduced new legal frameworks and regulations to govern corporate activities in the Philippines. The establishment of the Philippine Commission led to the enactment of laws that shaped the modern corporate landscape. This period showed the development of corporate governance practices and the introduce of stricter regulation. Commonwealth period 1935 to 1946. The enactment of the Corporation Law in 1936 provided a comprehensive legal framework for the formation and operation of corporation. This law introduced significant changes including stricter regulation of their corporate governance, capital requirements, and reporting standards. Post-independence era, 1946 present. After gaining independence in 1946, the Philippines continued refining its corporate governance framework. The passage of the revised Corporation Code in 1980 further enhanced corporate regulations and governance practices. In recent years, the revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, enacted in 2019, has modernized and streamlined corporate laws, promoting transparency, accountability, and ease of doing business. Thus, that created corporation in the Philippine history. Spanish colonial era. During the Spanish colonial period, corporations in the Philippines were known as Sociedades Anónimas. The legal framework governing this corporation was based on Spanish law and regulations. Philippine Corporation Law Act Number 1459, enacted during the American colonial period. The Philippine Corporation Law served as the first comprehensive law governing corporation in the Philippines. It is provided guidelines for the formation, operation, and dissolution of the corporation. This law established the basic legal framework for corporations in the country. Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, Batas Pambansa, bilang 68 to 1980. The revised Corporation Code enacted in 1980 replaced the Philippine Corporation Law and introduced significant changes to the legal framework for corporations. It updated provisionally rated of corporation governance, shareholders' right, and the registration process. The revised Corporation Code continues to serve as the primary law governing corporation in the Philippines. Amendments and updates. Over the years, the legal framework for corporation in the Philippines has seen amendments and updates to adapt to changing economic and legal landscapes. These amendments aim to improve corporate governance, enhance investor protection, and promote ease of doing business.
So now I am going to tackle the industries and also the religious group in the Philippines. So to start with the industry, during the pre-colonial period, which is the time where the Spanish is not around in the Philippines, because this time is only datos and rajas are the rulers of the people. During the pre-colonial era, the Philippines had a diverse and vibrant economy based on a agricultural trade and craftsmanship, indigenous peoples engaged in various industries including farming, fishing, weaving, and metalworking and boat building, which is they tend to use it when they go fishing. Trade networks existed among different islands and which with neighboring regions, showcasing the sophisticated economic systems of the time. Yes, because the industry only focuses on the islands of the Philippines because there's no other colonizers around. So we're going to the Spanish colonial era. Spanish colonial era, which is 16th to 19th century, under Spanish colonial rule, industries in the Philippines were significantly influenced by the policies and practices imposed by the colonizers. The Spanish introduced new crops such as tobacco, indigo, and sugar, which led to the development of plantation. So that's why we have the tobacco plantations, right? And the sugarcane plantations na makikita natin sa around the Philippines, which is gikan din na siya sa Spanish colonial era. The Spanish also established galleon trade routes that connected the Philippines to Mexico, China, and other parts of Asia, facilitating trade and contributing to the growth of industry. Yes, galleon trade happens in the seashore where the travelers or the voyagers came and trade with the locals. So let's go to the American colonial period, which is the 1898 up to 1946. During the American colonial period, the Philippines experienced further economic developments. The Americans promoted industrializations and modernizations efforts, leading to the growth of the industries such as textiles, manufacturing, and agriculture. The Bell Trade Act of 1946, which facilitated trade relations with the United States, played a crucial role in shaping the economic landscape. So, we are going to tackle what is the Bell Act or the Bell Trade Act. The Bell Act or Philippine Trade Act of 1946 is, as this law is generally known, required the amendment of the Philippines Constitution so as to allow American citizens and corporations to exploit the natural resources and operate public utilities, which privilege was restricted to the Filipino citizens and corporations. So that time, only the Americans have the right to exploit the products that came from here. So, and the Filipinos have no right about it. Without this constitutional amendment, the Philippines would not be able to enjoy the trade and other privileges offered in the Trade Act as well as in the companion measure, the Philippine Rehabilitation Act of 1946, otherwise known as the War Damage Act. So, that time, there's a kasabutan between the Philippines and the Americans, which is whatever happens to the Philippines, they tend to help the Philippines because of that amendment. So, we're going to tackle the post-independence era of 1946 up to present. After gaining independence in 1946, the Philippines continued its efforts to develop and modernize its industries. The government implemented various policies and initiatives to promote industrializations, attract foreign investments, and stimulate economic growth. Industries such as manufacturing, service, and information and technology, tourism, and agricultural have played significant roles in the country's economy. So, we are going to tackle now the religious group. Dated back, the religion is very popular. The very popular religion when there's no Spanish is Muslim or Islam. So, but we are going to tackle the from the common and up to the uh, religion group that are known here in the Philippines. So, the Roman Catholicism. Roman Catholicism is the largest religion group in the Philippines with a significant majority of the population identifying as Catholics. The history of the Catholicism in the Philippines dates back to the arrival of Spanish colonizers in the 16th century. Spanish missionaries, particularly the Agustinians, Franciscans, Dominicans, and the Jesuits, those are the ordered friars, played a significant role in spreading Catholicism and establishing the institutional presence of the Catholic Church in the Philippines. So, now we're going to, and next is Protestant Christianity. Protestant Christianity has a growing presence in the Philippines, which various denominations represented. Protestantism was introduced to the country during the American colonial period in the early 20th century. Different Protestant denominations such as Baptist, Methodist, the Pentecostals, have established churches and institutions throughout the country. And next is Islam. Islam is the second largest religion group in the Philippines, primarily concentrated in the southern region of Mindanao. Islam was introduced to the Philippines by Arab and Malay traders long before the arrival of the Spanish. Yes, as I mentioned kanina, Muslim is the first and the most popular religion in the Philippines during pre-colonial period. Muslim communities have a rich history and cultural heritage in the Philippines, with various Muslim groups such as the Moro and Lumad people. They are the first Muslims in the Philippines. Indigenous belief. So, indigenous beliefs and practices are the integral part of the religious landscape in the Philippines. Various indigenous groups across the country have their own unique spiritual traditions, which often included animistic beliefs, reverence for nature, and ancestor worship. These indigenous belief systems have influenced the cultural and religious practices of many Filipinos, which and also we are going to mention the what we call anitos. They tend to worship the anitos and other elements in the Philippines, the water, the earth, and fire, also the fire and the nature, the air, because back before the Spanish, they don't have before the Spanish and Islam, which is Catholicism and Islam, they don't have any religion. So that is why they used to worship the nature.